In this week's episode I find the one piece that has actually killed this Mini and would have otherwise written it off. We can put it off no longer. It's back, it's sat in the Mini. It's gone mouldy, you can see all the mould on the seats here. It's been sat so long. Bit of bad news on the Land Rover. Thought it was just going to be adjust the clutch and get going. Had all the cameras set up ready for its first drive. Thought it was just a few tweaks on the clutch. Turns out no, it's probably not. I don't think it's an adjustment issue. When I was putting in the gearbox, I don't know if you've seen one of the previous videos where I had all the difficulty putting it in because the engine crane didn't work. I think possibly I've damaged from what I can gather on the forums anyway, I think I've damaged the brass spigot bush, and it's grabbing the input shaft, and so when you push the clutch it's still spinning. The only way to find out or to solve it is unfortunately to take the gearbox back out, and I've got some replacement spigot bushes on order, so that's really disappointing. But again, it's a cock up on my part. I'm not gonna, you could edit all this out, but the whole point of doing these videos is kind of warts and all. I want everybody to learn from my mistakes. I'm not a trained mechanic. I'm just a driveway guy who does this because I enjoy it, funny enough. And other people can see that it's not perfect. These things do go wrong, and I do expect to make quite a lot of mistakes along the way, and that's how we all learn. So squashed here underneath the engine bay acts as an exhaust bolt that's quite inaccessible. I'll show you what it is now that we have to take off. So right up here, got this exhaust clamp. The bolt is like up and around there. I got a feeling, I'll see if I can shed a bit of light on it. You can see how crusty it looks in there. I got a feeling it's just going to, there it is, fall apart as we try and get it off. But we'll do our best. Okay, drive shaft disconnected this end. Had a bit of issue with that ball joint there. He was a bit tight, but got him off in the end. And then the other ball joint on the steering trackward end there as well. So now what we have to do is disconnect. See if I can fit in there. That from the gearbox, I think. Okay, so I was wrong on this one. You don't lever this side out here. You slacken off these two bolts either side of this carrier, and then this bit here, the whole thing pulls out. On the other side, it hasn't got this extension and this sort of bearing carrier, and it just levers out. So just pulled out the drive shaft and getting a nice little waterfall now from the gearbox oil full, because I didn't drain the gearbox oil. So this is mistake like number, I don't know, 50 or something now. So there's the drain plug here. So I'm just going to loosen that off, drain the gearbox oil before I do the other side so I don't end up with oil all over the drive again. Okay, gearbox oil coming out. So just popped off the fuel lines, so I'm just letting that drain into that now and dispose of that diesel properly. Disconnected the starter motor and taking this cable up here out of the way. Disconnected the electrical connections from there. Obviously the prop shaft is, the drive shaft rather, is now out of the way. So what have we got left to do? Oh, I noticed this as well. Don't know if this is good. Can you see that? All this around here, so I think this might be shot. Which would explain there's a lot of noise coming from this end, so it could be that. But have a look when it's out. And here. We've got this engine mounting to do when we get to that one. The only bit I'm still haven't done is the exhaust clamp up there somewhere out the way. And then we've got the passenger side drive shaft to do now once this is drained. The diesel enough, I can get under there and do those two. So making progress. So we just dropped some plus gas in the back here. Hopefully it's working its way into those splines before we start malleting it again. We'll see if it can pop out. It'll have to come eventually. So we're now a couple of days later. I thought I had a really good plan to get this spline shaft out of here, and I bought this cheap Chinese sort of hub puller thing, but then you see that it doesn't actually fit. And then when I've tried to line up any of these bolt holes, let's pop one in there, none of the others actually line up, so it's pretty much all it's good for is a paperweight or a doorstop, not a lot else. So that's a complete waste of bloody time. So this has soaked in plus gas now for, well, probably the best part of a week. So I'm gonna have to come up with another idea. Maybe I've got to make my own hub puller using parts of this cheap Amazon Chinese crap. So I think we've come up with a plan B for this hub spline. Let me turn you around and show. Put any more force on that. I've been plus gassing it as I've gone, soaking it in there, and it just will not give up. But that looks there like it's only just on. I think this whole hub is going to have to come off. So maybe if I just undo that suspension and that there, take it off the bottom of the strut, take out the sensor, then we can just take the whole thing with the drive shaft as well, and then maybe soak it in plus gas overnight, see if that makes any blind bit of difference. I don't think it's going to matter, but yeah, that's the only way I can do it, I think. That's the pinch bolt that's come out of that lower suspension to hub mounting. The C's pretty solid and it's pretty mucky. Everything about this side of the hub, I guess you should expect it because it's the side that's in the muck all the time, but everything on this side of the car is absolutely C solid. Just does not want to budge, and it would be the side that I've got about 8 inches to work in. So we got that hub assembly completely disconnected from that. So all that's holding it in now is the drive shaft. And guess what? It won't come off the splines, this end. Alright, so we just tied that up to take the weight of that hub. I did put this sort of squishy mat down underneath it just because I didn't want it to land on the floor if those splines did finally decide they want to come out. Now yeah, I've got to work on those splines in the gearbox end. There we go. I didn't want to take the whole hub assembly off with the drive shaft, but I think that's going to be the only way to do it. So yeah, success. So what I decided to do with this for the meantime is put it upright and just see if we can get plus gas in here, sort of disappear down those splines. Hopefully that'll work down now it's stood upright, and see if it'll free up at all. I don't know. I'm not holding out much hope given the amount of fight it's given so far, but I don't know another way unless it may be that we've got to get a whole new hub, and sort of attack it with an angle grinder, but I want to try this sort of stuff first. Looking at it, I think we're left with the clutch slave cylinder to take off, and the gear linkages, and then the exhaust. So that's the first one there. So you just push back this clip, hopefully, I think. Maybe wishful thinking. Okay, see if you can see that. And all these bloody pipes, but yeah, that in the end you just have to like lever it off. They're quite tight, and the same with this one. Here, I just had to put a lever top, lever bottom, and I'm just going to push it that away, and it popped off the ball joint. Okay, so we're underneath the Mini, just looking at the last few. Plus we're going to undo this bracket here, just where the fuel lines bolt onto the back of the engine. Then, so we've also got to get to is this exhaust clamp here, but the nut is round the top there. Then we've got to undo these gear linkages. There's a mount that they're holding into. I think I can see some sensors up there and some cables. I'm hoping they stay with the car, but maybe once we start pulling the engine forward of the mounts, we'll just see what's left to be disconnected, and shouldn't be too much, but there's always one or two things. So we've now undone this that holds on the brake linkages. They're two E14 bolts. Just noticed there's a bracket down here, if you can see that one, that holds the clutch pipe on, so that one's got to be disconnected. So we'll do that. I've still got the slave cylinder actually to do. So one plus point of taking all this ducting out is that I can now get to, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, let's just see where's the exhaust hook on. Can you see? Yeah, there it is. The exhaust bolt just in there. Still quite well hidden, but I think I've got better access to it. Okay, I think that's everything now disconnected. There are a few more coolant hoses and that down here took off. I think that's the fuel return pipe, that's off. All the electrics, this little connector here. The clutch slave, oops, just in here, that's now disconnected. Oh, I'll put those together. That pipe stays on the car, this one comes off, so I'll just separate those out of the bag. Chain on. So that's bolted up to the lifter, nice, ready to lift. Exhaust clamp came off relatively easily. I've slackened all the engine mountings here, and the one underneath. I'll pull the one out underneath and then put this on the crane, and then take these two out, and that should be it ready to come out. I'm guessing, I bet there's one or two things I've forgotten. Maybe, I can't see, but yeah, we'll figure it out. So time for a little bit of a tidy up, because we've got to get through this, and there's only just the right room to walk through at the minute. So I'll clear out all my tools, barring the 18mm ratchet for the engine mountings, and move everything else that I can, so that we've got a nice clear run through here for the engine crane. I don't know where all this is going to live, but it's going to have to be moved for now. and then this is eventually where the engine's going to end up. And then when I've been pouring the plus gas in here to get this seized spline shaft out, it is, let's just see, I don't know if you can see it in there, it's quite wet, it's making its way through. So I've just topped it up with some more, so that's slowly working its way through, and then maybe tomorrow I'll suspend it, give it a tap again on this end and see if we can actually get that freed up and out of there. That would be fantastic if we could. That could actually, that hub could go back on the car then, because the less amounts of parts, I mean, you can see what type of space I'm working with here. I've got, you know, my floor space here isn't very much, so I'm going to have to move a lot of stuff to bring the engine through. So the least bits in here, the better. So my contraption's working, extra steel bar in there, built in that spline shaft through. I think I've knackered the end of the splines, so it's going to be probably a new CV joint, I would have thought, but oh well, that's a small cost to pay to get this out. So yeah, let's just see if it comes out. Whee! I think I just lost a knuckle, but hey ho, that is out. Oh, look at those splines. That's not nice. And those threads, sorry. Yeah, that's good. Winning the battle against those stuck splines is surely worth a like and a subscribe. It's free to do and really helps the channel. Okay, so I think that's as far as the crane's going to go underneath with the axle stands, but we've got plenty of reach here. Tried as a little step there, I don't know if you can see it. Not quite. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So that's it, that's a big hole now where the engine was, and this is sat on the crane. So mostly it's because of this, and the clutch, dual mass flywheel. This DPF needs taking off and soaking. Obviously you've seen the crank pulley with all the damage to this rubber around here, that'll come off. I'll check it, I'll obviously change this belt, check these tensionizers on this side. We'll do everything that we can now that the engine's off and we've got access to literally everything. I'll probably even take the inlet manifold back off, because that was fairly carboned up. That's in my very first video, so I'll clean that up. And I'm wondering whether to take the exhaust manifold off as well when we get round here and do the same thing, because I'm never going to get this level of access again. I don't even know if this is salvageable. I suppose with enough time and enough money, anything's potentially salvageable, so we'll have to see how far we can get it. But yeah, and as well as this, I'm tempted with the turbo. I think the casing, I mean, we'll know more when we take it off, but I think the casing's okay. It's just whether it doesn't do anything, so yeah. Oh god, yeah, there's a lot of play on that. Wow, jeez. Well, we'll show you in a bit, but that is rocking more than I ever thought. So yeah, well, that, I think that is the source of all our ails, to be honest with you, is the turbo. Let me just see if I can put a light on this camera and I can show you inside there. So hopefully, can you see that there? That amount of movement in there, that is absolutely shot to shit. Okay, well, that's good. I like it when you find a defect with something that you pretty much know is defective, but like I say, I'm not a mechanic. I'm just playing at this really and hoping we can salvage this one. But when I find something that is knowingly damaged, and that's where my kind of thoughts were taking me anyway, then that's good to know. So obviously I'm learning as I go. So we go, first bit of the jigsaw undone, DPF taken off. So that's over there now, waiting for some off-car DPF cleaner, and I'll leave that soak a few times over. It's worth noting that if you're doing this yourself, the clamp that goes around here for the turbo to the DPF, I mean, mine snapped. I had heard stories that these things break, so it's worth having a spare one on hand if you're in a rush to get this job done. I think I may have just found one of the issues. Can you see that banjo bolt there? This is coming from the oil feed line to the turbo. That hole there completely and utterly full of silt, like solidly. I don't know if you can see there, that won't even push in there. That is solid with, so there would be no oil going to the turbo, so there's no wonder. So that I've just taken that banjo bolt out of here. So that's the feed that goes in the top. I think this one is the return feed, but you can see the muck in there as well. So yeah, there's no wonder this got completely blocked up. But this is a car that's only done 80,000 miles and has been fully serviced. But yeah, I think that blocked banjo bolt is probably what's written off that turbo.